Hi there, welcome to Transcona Trailer Sales. Today we're walking you through your 2025 Surveyor 252Rble. We are just going to start off the back of the unit. If you notice up top, you are pre-wired for an observation camera. Of course, this customer already opted to go with it. It's going to be a great little addition for your camper. Additional to that, they were pre-mounted for a Lippert stair system, which of course they went with. Great on them. Got your 2-inch receiver, which I've seen you've already found. Nice little addition. Just keeping in mind how much weight you put on here. Really, it is just for a bike rack, so just keep that in mind whenever you're using it. You got your spare tire right at the back, and then in both corners of the back bumper, pull the bumper cap off. That's typically where you're going to want to put your sewer hose after your first use. We have a brand new one located inside the front compartment, which is why there's not one in there yet. But typically, like I said, after your first use, that's just where you're going to want to store that. It tries to keep as much smell out of the unit as possible. Now coming around the passenger side, you got your stabilizer jacks. The way those works is you're going to take your 3/4-inch drive tool inside your front compartment, run this foot down to the ground. Once that foot contacts the ground, just giving another 1/8 quarter turn to snug it up. It's going to take any bounce or sway we have in the unit right now away. Just a special note, whenever you are using your stabilizer jacks, they are stabilizing jacks, they're not leveling jacks. Same goes for if you're using an impact to run them up and down, you can do so, just being very mindful of how much torque you put on them, as you do run the risk of bending them very easily. You get your motion sensing light here, right by your sewer hookup. Nice little feature. Taking and twisting that sewer cap off, you're taking note of those ears there. It's the same ears your sewer hose are going to have. They just line up with the notches like so, twist and lock into place. Then you got your black valve and your gray valve. You always want to empty your black valve first. It's going to be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets. Then you can come behind that with your gray valve, which is typically cleaner water filled from your sinks and your showers. And because we're talking about black and gray valves, we're going to swap over here to your black tank flush. So that's going to be used whenever you're noticing false monitor panel readings or you're just noticing an odor around the unit. You can thread a garden hose in here, turn it on, it's going to flush that tank out. Just always making sure you're mindful of the caution sticker here. It's just stating that whenever you're using it, you have to have your black valve open and your sewer connected. Reason being, if you're pushing pressure inside the tank and that pressure has nowhere to go, you do run the risk of bursting your tank. So just keep that in mind whenever you're using it. You got your 30 amp twist lock connection. Little notch there lines up with the notch on the plug side. Push it firmly into place. 8th turn to lock it in, and then you got that threaded collar to really lock it down. If you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 30 amp plug end. Most campsites should have this, so you can plug right on in. But let's say you have the unit at home and you want to run your fridge and your lights, or your campsite only has 15 amp service, which is your standard household outlet. We do include that adapter to go on there. Just keep it in mind when you are using it. You're going down by power, so you can't run your air conditioner. It really is just to run your fridge and your lights and charge up your battery. Whenever you're plugged in, that little green light's telling you you have a good power source. If the red light were to be on, it was telling you you have an issue with your source of power. Cable satellite outlet, city water connection. One thing I did forget to mention. Nope, sorry, that's on the other side. Go ahead now. So if you're out boondocking or your campsite doesn't have water service, you have your fresh tank, put a garden hose in there, turn it on, that's what fills that up. That's what your water pump draws off of. And right down below the floor, looking underneath, you got your fresh water drain, cracking that guy open. It's gonna drain any water that's inside the tank out. Next, you got your service port for your hot water heater. Pulling, opening up that guy. One thing I'm going to go over first, it's not going to be, if you've had a camper before, it's not like your standard camper before, you probably had a tank system, in which case you had bypass valves behind it. If you're doing your own winterization, you want to turn them because you don't want antifreeze going inside of it. This is going to be the complete opposite. Because it's a tankless system, you run antifreeze through the system, of course, with the power switch being off. This switch supplies power to the thermostat inside. So turning this off, run antifreeze through the system. Once you're completely done running your antifreeze through the system, just crack the pressure relief valve and leaving it cracked open for the duration of winter. That's just allowing that antifreeze, if it were to expand during those cold winter months, it's giving it a place to go instead of cracking the coil. Inside this compartment, it goes right through to the other side. You got your standard starter kit. That's where you're going to find your sewer hose, that 15 amp park adapter, and some other miscellaneous goodies. Around the front of the unit, you got your battery disconnect switch. With it in the on position, the batteries are connected. With it in the off position, the batteries become disconnected. And additional to that, when the 12 volt does get disconnected, it does when the battery gets disconnected, it also disconnects the 12 volts. So if you were to be plugged in and had no 12 volt, so example, and your light's working, make sure your batteries are connected, because for some reason they do hook it up that way. Then you got your 2 front propane tanks. Typically, for standard everyday use, you just loosen off those tabs like so, moving them back. You can flip open this lid, do everything you need to do right from up top here. But for the purpose of the video, I'll pull it right off for you. That way you have an idea what you're looking at. Pull this right out of place. You got your 2 standard 20-volt propane tanks, just like home, right on the front regulator. You got your selector valve with it pointed this way. You're gonna be drawing off this tank. If this tank were to go dry, turning it off, flip it over to the side, and you can draw off that tank. Counterclockwise all the way, nice and slow. Opens up the flow of propane to the unit. Front tongue jack, manual override right up top in case that would have failed for whatever reason. You got the other side of your storage compartment, also the weight distribution this customer can opt to go with. Come a little further down the unit, you got your main entryway door. I'll go over that in a little bit. Right up top, you got your range hood vent. With it closed like that, that's going to be while you're traveling, so you're not getting any excess dust rolling inside the unit. Flipping that open whenever you get to your campsite, that way whenever you are using your range hood, it's actually evacuating what you want. Right down below, you got your furnace exhaust, so whenever that's running, it's going to be blowing out hot air, so be mindful of that. You got a couple plug-ins in case you want to put a TV or coffee maker outside. Right down below the floor here, you got your 2 low point drains, so all those guys are cracking them open. It's going to try and drain as much water out of the lines as possible. That's going to be good for if you don't want water going stale or stagnant because you're leaving the unit for a while, or when you're done winterization, just to let some of that antifreeze out. A good measure to do so. Then inside here, you're going to notice most of the compartments are on magnetic latches. This kitchen one, if you pull on it real hard, it's not going to come off. You just got to flick that to open it. That's just one thing I noticed, so that's why I mentioned it. Uncommon. You got your 110 volt mini fridge, so that'll work whenever you're hooked up to shore power, but does not run off 12 volt. Then you got your little outside kitchenette set, pulling this guy open and that guy open. And this is going to be where you're going to hook up your griddle and your little sink pan. Right beside it, you got your water hook, your little outside water hookup. There's a hose inside the front compartment you can use for that. And then right below the floor, you got your propane quick connect line here. Pulling that dust cover off, always making sure you do pull it off whenever you're using it. Pull the collar back like so. You can insert the line off your griddle into that. Lock it into place. Opening up the flow of propane opens up the flow to the griddle. And as an added safety measure, you can't operate that coupler with the flow open, so you do have to make sure it's closed to operate it. Now for the best part, taking your assist handle, pushing it up, pulling it 90 degrees, it'll lock in place, and that'll allow you to open the door. You have to have your door open up all the way for the stairs to come down nicely. Pull the latch, start pulling them towards you. They're gonna start folding down. You got levers on either side, so you can adjust your feet for nice and level stairs for your campsite. Taking a step on inside the unit, first off on the left is that fire extinguisher, pretty much just like home. Pull the pin and shoot inside this binder here. That is where you're gonna have all your owner's manuals, some different checklists for you from us ourselves, and also where you're gonna have your set of keys. There is only one set in here. I'm assuming you have the other set. If not, again, we can get into contact with the parts department when you get here to pick it up, and we can figure all that out for you. Up on the wall here, you got your main kind of control area. You got some different mood lightings for behind the slide out. Interior light switch turns on all the main living space lights. And then you got a porch light and an awning LED light. So the porch light's that little orange one outside there. The awning LED is obviously right underneath the awning LED. Next, you got your awning control. Pushing and holding that out button, the awning's going to start making its way out. And once fully extended, you're going to see the back of the metal tube and a little flap hang down. Now, unfortunately, today we're not going to be able to get it all the way out, but like I said, typically what you see back in the tube, a little flap hang down, that's when you're already fully extended. Sometimes the flap can get stuck up, so you just have to retract it and pull it back out again a little bit. Now, if it were to start raining, take any arm, front or rear, pull down at the center. It's going to change the pitch of the awning head, allowing water to now run off. Now, if you like that angle better because it allows for more shade underneath, you do the same thing with the front arm, just making sure you do push these arms back to straight before you bring the awning in. That way you don't run the risk of bending anything. And of course, whenever you have your awning out, always keep an eye on wind speeds. Once the winds start picking up and you see this guy start shaking around, it's a good idea to bring it in. That way you don't rip your fabric or bend your arms. To retract it, it's as simple as holding the retract button. The awning's going to start making its way in. Once those arms contact the side of the trailer, it's going to automatically cut out. You got your slide out control. So unfortunately today, before I even get there, before you run your slide out, always making sure you know what's on either side of the slide, inside and out. The reason I say inside is sometimes when you're traveling, things tend to shift. If it gets stuck between the slide and the wall, it could cause some damage. So being mindful of that. And then of course, just for the outside, making sure you have enough room to push it out all the way, which unfortunately today we do not have enough room to push it out all the way. But pushing and holding the out button, always trying to make sure you do full strokes in or out when you can. And once this would hit its full extension, you hear the motors wind up and click. As soon as you hear the clicking, you can let off the button. Like I said, unfortunately today we don't have enough room, so I'm gonna have to stop about there, just so again we're not causing any damage to the unit. And then right up top, you got your 30 amp solar controller. A bunch of different settings you can go into. I recommend going over the owner's manual for those as it gets pretty in depth. We have it currently set up for your basic charging needs. If there's sun outside shining on the solar panels, it's going to apply a charge to the battery up front. If you're noticing that you're not getting the same charge as you were when it was new and you picked it up, it's probably because your panel got a little bit dirty. So it's a good idea to go up there with some gentle cleaner. Honestly, I just recommend using hot water and a rag and clean that off, just so the sun gets to it a little bit better. We're going to take a step into the bedroom first. All the blinds in the unit are going to work the same way. You're just going to sit where you leave them. One click pull will allow them to retract back up. This is going to be the fire exit on this side here for the bedroom. Pulling this tab, screen's going to pop right out of place. At that point, you take your handle, push it out, hop out of the unit. It's a nice storage space right in front here, which you've already discovered. Awesome, love to see it. Some more drawers here for any clothes you wanted to store. And of course, whenever you're using any of the storage all around the unit, just being mindful of drains, water lines, and wiring. Lots of storage throughout this unit. And of course, lots of different accent lighting. On the wall here, you're going to notice you got a TV back here. If you wanted to mount a TV in the bedroom, this can be the best place to do so because they got a special brace back here for you to screw into. Got a coax outlet here, a couple plugins in case you want to hook anything up. And I can't stress this enough. We're going to go over quick travel straps here. You're going to notice this door. Just move your little stool out of the way. This door here, it's got a travel strap for a reason. Whenever the travel strap's off, it's going to allow it to travel freely. So whenever you're traveling, always double checking you have that latched on, because if you start traveling like that, it's a good chance it's going to cause some damage from swinging back and forth. Now on the wall here, you got your thermostat. So before we get into that, the furnace has one fan speed, pushes all its air through the floor portals you have throughout your unit. And then your air conditioner uses the ceiling ducting, and you have two different options whenever you are running it. You can run it with the louvers open, in which case it'll dump all its air into this main living space, or you can close them off and it'll move its air throughout using the ceiling ducting. Back to the thermostat. Pushing and holding the power button turns it on. It's going to go to your last known setting, so in this case, it's going to be in cool, up and down at any time to change your desired temperature. You're going to see a fan speed there. It's on A, so automatic. That's meaning it's going to be an on-demand system. So the fan's going to kick in and out as needed, depending on what you have your room set to cool things off. You can change it to high or low manually, but if you do have it on high or low without the automatic, the fan is going to run full time regardless of what the room temperature is. So I always recommend leaving it on automatic. Push the button one more time. That's going to kill the air conditioner, fire up the furnace. Whenever the furnace is running, you have to make sure you have your propane on. And whenever you turn it off, it runs for an additional 3 minutes to allow itself to cool down. If you want to run the fan for the air conditioner just to move air around, you can do so, changing the speed just with the fan button again. One more time will get you into dry. Now that's just a dehumidifying mode to try and take as much moisture out of the air as possible. Push and hold the power button to turn it off. Cycles everything back to the off position. Got your two recliner chairs, recliners, little pull things on the side. It's going to knock those out. This is going to be the second fire exit for the main living space. Works the same way as the one in the bedroom. Got your dinette area, little accent light on its own center push button, storage underneath, and then of course if you have some extra guests, you pull out the bottom legs for underneath the table, set the tabletop on the desired ledges, take your back cushions, fill in the center, and you have yourself a bed. In the kitchen area, hot and cold water at the sink, of course, storage all around, just again being mindful of drains and water lines. So since this unit is equipped with propane, you do have an LP detector. Located. Sorry about that. So since you have propane, you do have an LP detector. I don't know why I'm having a dry moment here. Can't find the LP detector. I know it's in here somewhere. It is going to be equipped with it. If that guy ever starts going off, just turn off the main supply of propane at the front of the unit. Open up some windows and vents to ventilate things out a little bit. That's just to get some fresh oxygen inside here, and because it's very sensitive to cleaning chemicals, so if you're ever cleaning around it and you've sprayed some chemicals, it starts going off, use your best judgment. Typically, it's just going to be that chemical it's sensing. Range hood, always recommend running this whenever you're running your stove. The stove runs off propane. Whenever you're trying to light it, always making sure if you have the gas on, you're trying to hit that igniter every 1 to 2 seconds. That way you have no gas buildup and no minor combustion. Because your propane system, whenever you turn it off, it allows air into the system. I know we're talking a lot about propane here. It allows a lot of air into the system. So sometimes it can take a few minutes just to get things going. So I always recommend whenever you get your campsite, you turn your propane back on if you've had it off. Come to the stove to light that first. It's just going to be the easiest method to purge all the air out of the lines. Because if you go to fire something like your water heater or your furnace, those only try lighting themselves a few times. And once they don't, they're going to throw a fault code. Could cause you some grief. So we don't want that. So like I said, just turning it over to the high/light option, hitting the igniter to fire up that stove. Of course, I had the propane system running earlier, so that is why it did fire up so quickly. Sometimes it can take a few seconds, but like I said, if you've had the gas off, don't panic. The same goes for the stove, and the stove can take a little bit longer compared to the oven can take a little bit longer compared to the stove. Once you get to that pilot, pushing and holding this in, once the pilot can hold its own and stay lit, turn it up to your desired temperature and it does fire right on up. On the right side here, you got your oven light button, or you can just leave those stove lights illuminated. Up top, range hood, again, always recommend running that whenever you're running your stove. Microwave up top, pretty much just like home, not much I'm going to show you there. Now we got our entertainment center, so it's going to be kind of hard to see behind this TV. You got this coax outlet right beside it. It's this little black button. Turns that green light on. Whenever you turn that green light on, it's turning the antenna on in the roof. Now that's also going to improve radio frequency and cell phone frequency. So I typically recommend always turning it on whenever you get to your campsite. It just improves everything a little bit better. And then whenever you're done with it, turning it off because it does draw battery power. You got your stereo system. Pretty much just like home, minus your different zones. Zone 1 is interior. Zone 2 is going to be exterior. Opening up your pantry area. Nice little storage spot. Light is on a motion sensing option. And you can change it with the button here. 2 is motion sensing. 1 is going to be on full time. And obviously in the middle is off. Then you got your fridge. Opening up that guy. Fridge, freezer combo. Right down below. You got your temperature control. Clockwise all the way is going to be its coldest setting. Anywhere before that's a warmer setting. And then you got your off-grid rating. Of course, that's going to be the most energy efficient setting to run it on if you're running off battery power. Then you got your charcoal filter. That's just to help with some fridge odors. We do sell replacement ones here at the shop. If you'd like to get set up with that, just contact your parts department and they can get you a quote on that. Right down below, you got your main fuse and breaker panel. Whenever a breaker trips, it's going to sit in the middle. So you just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. Corresponding fuses all on the right. Now, stepping into the bathroom, lots of storage, very nice. Toilet, sink, shower, just like home. Up top, you're going to notice you got your Furrion Max hair cover. Pulling that down to unlock it. That's going to allow you to turn that knob clockwise to open up your vent lid. Now it's very important if you were to start traveling that you remember to close this. And then of course, if it were to start raining, it is going to get wet inside here if you've left this open. Now we do sell max air covers here at the shop. It's a great little addition. Goes over top of this vent. It's going to allow you to either leave that open while traveling or run it whenever it's raining. If you'd like to get set up with that, again, just contact your parts department and they can put together a quote for you. The fan setting is just on that far right. You got 4 different settings. The first is the slowest, the fourth is going to be the fastest, and then you got your off switch. Just making sure you do close that back up. And then just as an added little safety feature, you can lock it into place so it's not going to go anywhere. Now over here, you got your monitor panel system. So you're pushing the different tanks or battery, for example. It's going to tell you the corresponding level. Got your water pump option. Turning that on draws out of your fresh tank. Water heater option. Hitting that switch brings you over to here and applies power to your thermostat. Now you can go up or down at any time to change the set temperature, Celsius and Fahrenheit, with the press of a button. You could turn it off right from there, but I do just recommend leaving using this button. And then right up on the wall, you got your main GFI plug. You got test on the bottom, reset in the middle. If you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, this would be the first place I would look. And then last but not least, you do have a heated tank system. They say it's for extended camping seasons. Unfortunately, our Manitoba winters get much too cold for this to be adequate. It's essentially just a pad that attaches onto the bottom of your tanks that heats up whenever you turn it on. Whenever you do turn that on, it's going to apply heat to the tanks to try and stop freezing up. Realistically, anything below -0, you're running the risk of things freezing, so just keep that in mind whenever you are using it. And that is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.